Is Black beautiful in America? Racial discrimination and tension has been around since before America even existed. However, there is something more to racial discrimination, and that is colorism.
I am not a colorist.
So why don't you walk us through your casting process?
Fine. I did the exact same thing I did with the first ad. I auditioned a few Black families, and I chose who I felt was best to sell the image.
So in order for me to sell something, I have to have a keen nose, green eyes, straight hair, paper lips, and no ass.
He's right, boss. The reason you like this family is because they look closest to white.
Colorism is defined as the unequal treatment and discrimination of individuals belonging to the same racial or ethnic minority group based upon differences in physical features, most notably skin complexions, but also facial features and hair texture. Colorism can easily be tracked back to the power structures that existed during slavery, where lighter-skinned slaves were favored and given more privileges.
I still feel like that's what we're fighting. Healing from the past. I think that it affects everything that we do. It affects our relationships. It affects our art. But that comes from us, does it not? That's what I'm saying, that we haven't healed from that. We just haven't.
This division still affects our community today, and while darker-skinned Black women are seen as more authentic, women of lighter skin tones are still more privileged in society because of their Eurocentric physical traits.
There's a divide in our community. There are things that my darker-skinned sisters go through that I will never experience. And it's gross and disgusting to me, the fact that society, has this divide just based on your complexion. I'm the daughter of a dark-skinned woman who is the most beautiful woman in the world to me. But our idea of beauty in journalism, in fashion, in film and television, it's warped.
Many Black women experience colorism in their everyday lives, but colorism also affects the media we digest. The majority of Black actresses who land leading roles are lighter-toned women, and even the few dark-skinned women we do see often are lightened by makeup and technology when featured on publications such as magazine covers. Because of this, representation in the media is skewed. My project, The Story Behind My Skin, The Black Women's War on Colorism, focuses on Black women and their experiences and opinions on colorism. I interviewed 7 beautiful Black women in hopes to illuminate the experiences of Black women of various hues in an attempt to mend this cultural divide.
To me, colorism is just the discrimination against the darker skinned people in a given community, a given race, or the preferential treatment of lighter skinned people.
You know, at first thought when I hear colorism, I think of another form of racism, a more watered down form of racism, since in today's society, racism isn't, it's not accepted anymore. So when you think about a group of Asians, a group of Black people, a group of Latinos, the color spectrum that they all fall upon, from the very dark to the very light hue. The preference of one hue over another is what I think of when I hear colorism.
I guess colorism really, it's kind of just like the institutionalized, discrimination of people based upon their shades. So everyone could be like one race, but because you're lighter, you get treated different than someone who is darker, or you get preferential treatment because you have certain features that ascribe to like European standards of beauty.
Colorism means a lot. It's multi-layered and it's been going on for centuries, and since life existed. Colorism is when you get more privilege based on how you look, or like less privilege. Basically, you're treated differently for your color.
Colorism is like the knowledge that I'm being treated differently or somebody else is being treated differently just because of the shade. And I feel like it's a lot of intersectionality between African Americans themselves, even though that most of it is coming from the outward as well. Amongst our community, we're always like light skins versus dark skins, or brown skins, or even putting verbs in it like chocolate, light chocolate, dark chocolate, all that other stuff. So all those little stigmas come with different perceptions and different things that are attached that make it difficult for somebody to actually go on in their day-to-day life without being affected by it.
Well, it's very deeply rooted. If we're going to talk specifically about black women, we can go back to, like for example, to get into sororities, the history of it. They used to do a brown paper bag test where you would hold up the brown paper bag against your skin, and if you were lighter than the bag, then you were in. If you were darker, then you were out. They also had the pencil test where they would run it through your hair, because you know black people have coarser hair, and to appeal to the more Eurocentric just beauty standard of straight hair. If the pencil went all the way through your hair, then you were in, and then if it didn't, then you were out. So just little things like that is very just deeply rooted in our community.
I think it starts back from media. You know, I mean, it goes all the way back to the transatlantic slave trade, but I think that it affects us so much because we are constantly reminded through media institutions that this is the preferable black woman right here. She is no darker than a brown paper bag. Her hair is straight, it's silky, and she has a narrow nose, and you know, we will contour her face, and we will do lightening techniques, whether it's in a magazine or we will, when it comes to films and TV shows, we're gonna pick a fair-skinned light woman so we can get the dark audience, but still not turn off the white audience. So I think when years and years and years of seeing a version of yourself that doesn't really physically look like yourself, you turn on the TV, you see lighter skinned women, and you're a dark skinned black woman, you rarely ever see yourself on television. I think that subconsciously, not in the front of your mind, but subconsciously, you start to notice, you know, this challenge between black women. They may not outright say it, but I know darker women who have said, I wish I was lighter, I wish I wasn't this dark. I can't find makeup that matches my color. You have makeup companies that aren't, you know, producing makeup for the darker skinned women, you know, and I've seen, you know, and heard of light skinned women who have felt like they weren't dark enough. They weren't accepted by women in their community because, oh, she thinks she's cute because she's light skinned, or her hair is wavy because she's mixed with something other than, you know, straight, raw African black, you know. So I think that it has a lot to do with the media institutions, what we see on TV, billboards, magazines, you know, feeding into our subconscious minds, and, you know, it just goes on from there.
Valuing light skin over dark skin has to do with its proximity to whiteness. You can look back at things like, you know, house slaves versus field slaves and how that power structure works. But then if you add beauty standards to that conversation, I think that's where it more so is significant between black women.
I think it's like residual, not self-hate, but residual hate from like colonial times. Like, cause I can only speak to the African woman because I'm African, but dealing, like when they came, like women who were seen as light-skinned were seen as more beautiful and more accessible, and they were the ones who were allowed to get jobs, and they were the ones that were like seen as more beautiful. So going into the future, like coming towards the present, it's become more like a status thing. Like if you're light-skinned, you can get more privileges, or you're more beautiful. And then our beauty standards are really Eurocentric. So the closer you are to white, the better you are. And so you're judging your beauty based off like a J-Lo and like a Beyonce. So girls who don't look like that are like, oh, we can't be beautiful, or we can't be as successful.
I think that we're doing a lot better today than we had, you know, 30, 40, 50, 60 years ago. I think just embracing the fact that no matter how black you are or are not, you're black. And that's the way society is going to treat you and see you. I think once we really grasp an understanding of the fact that this is another black woman, despite her level of blackness, in society, she will face the same challenges and struggles that you do. So embracing one another and just accepting ourselves, I think, you have to accept yourself first before you can open up the door to accept someone else. If you have a lock on your own door, you can't, you know, get into someone else's door or have anyone else come in. So I think we have to, accept ourselves first for who we are as Black women. I think we have to start embracing some of our natural physical appearances, our hair, you know, our facial features. Where I'm finding that we're doing more contouring and filters on pictures to make ourselves look more socially acceptable as it relates to the European look. Once we start embracing ourselves, we'll see that beauty in the next Black woman walking by. But if you already don't appreciate or love the way you look yourself, how can you appreciate or accept the way another woman is presenting herself?
I guess it's just like you have to like educate everyone. It's like that whole like light skin versus dark skin thing, like that really needs to go away. So like if we could just, I guess, educate people about like you're just honestly what you're doing is perpetuating like a system of oppression that was set through like, you know, the whole house slave and the whole, you know, field slave type thing, which is really where it came from. So if we could step away from that and then, you know, stop having these divides that don't really mean anything, so we can work towards things that are actually meaningful and we can actually bring change and, you know, Black excellence and, you know, Black girl magic and everything.
Don't judge people based on the way they look. That's the easiest way. Like, don't link up like, oh, she's dark skinned, I'm dark skinned, we must get along together, or she's bright, I'm dark, like we couldn't be friends, or like she wouldn't even want to be friends. Because a lot of the times people have preconceived notions and they like approach people with preconceived notions, and then it just creates a bigger rift. Like if you think someone's gonna be rude to you based solely on how they look, and then you come at them that way, and then they're rude to you, it kind of like, you know what I mean? Like just treat people like they're normal and stop, like, not stop, but try to look past all that physical and try to get to know people and become friends with people and bridge the gap by just being human. Yeah, I said that weird.
For one, we've already kind of done things. So for instance, Black Girl Magic, that is something that is out there to, one, unify Black girls, also empower Black girls, you know, regardless of, you know, their skin tone. I think that just promoting unity over divisiveness, period, in any way is something that'll help work towards it. But again, I'm not gonna pretend that it's just beauty standards, because it's not. You know, it's very deeply rooted. It has a lot to do with power structures. It has a lot to do with just America and racism in general. So it's not as easy as saying, let's just all be friends, you know. It's gonna take a lot of undoing to get to a point where colorism isn't as, I guess, isn't as pronounced as it is right now.
The easy answer would just be to ignore it, but since we can't, just because of, you know, I guess ignorance within and without our community, I think we just need to change the narrative. Change the narrative that light-skinned people are more valuable, or they're smarter, or they're more talented, or they're more beautiful. And also change the narrative that because of me speaking for myself, that because I'm lighter skinned, that I'm not as down for the cause, or I'm not as Black as somebody that's of darker skin. I think we just need to move in the direction of we're all Black, because at the end of the day, some of these racist white people don't care what shade of Black that you are.
I guess a lot of the times I'd be very conscious about my skin tone, so I'd be like, I don't look good in white because that makes me look darker, or I hate the fact that when I'm in summer I do get a little bit darker. You know, I kind of just, I guess I fell into that narrative and I believed it and I ascribed to it, so I didn't try to like go to the extremes of like bleaching myself, but I did believe in it and I did want to make myself lighter.
Personally, can I say my self-worth? I notice it won't be like consciously I'll be thinking about it, but subconsciously I'll like judge myself, and I noticed that, and it took a lot to get that out. Not so much colorism, but just noticing the divide between light-skinned, dark-skinned women. When I was in school, I went to a new school, I think it was like middle school-ish, maybe like 6th, 7th grade, and females would just not like me for no other reason besides I was light-skinned. One of my best friends in San Antonio just actually expressed this to me, that because her dad like grew up in the same community, and he told her before she went to school, like, when you go there, just be aware that girls are gonna just not like you just because you are lighter skinned. And that just is because it's been ingrained for some reason that light-skinned people are better, smarter, prettier. So that was just my earliest experience.
Okay. So I mean, there's a bunch of little stuff where people attribute certain things I do to being light-skinned. So, you know, if I don't text back, oh, you're being light-skinned, like, no, I'm just busy. Like, has nothing to do with the fact that I'm light-skinned. And then, I don't know, just being a light-skinned girl, there's always things said like that, where regardless of what I'm doing, they can attribute it to me being light-skinned. There's nothing I can say about it. I'm just like, all right, it's fine.
I never really had any issues with colorism, at least not that I can immediately recall, because I'm not on the darker end of the spectrum when it comes to being a black woman, but I'm not on the lighter end of the spectrum either. I feel like I fall somewhere in the middle, brown skin, so I haven't faced any like, oh, you're not dark enough to be black, that some black women or black people in general face when it comes to colorism. You're too dark. Or I haven't faced like, you know, you're too light to be black, you know, or anything of that nature. So I can't think immediately of an experience where I was like treated differently because of colorism. Racism is another deal. Like, because I was just black in general, I can think of tons of scenarios when I was treated a specific way because I was black. But as far as colorism or being treated a specific way by people within my own community, I don't have any specific experience because I'm not a dark black woman and, you know, frowned upon, or a lighter skinned black woman and frowned upon or admired because I was lighter, or admired or not admired because I was darker.
Most definitely. I think that especially Hollywood, well, now towards the future, we're kind of getting into more diversification, like with seeing strong, dark-skinned black women, like in Black Panther. But like growing up, like watching Martin, like I feel like that's a good example, seeing Gina and Pam. And the only difference, because Pam was beautiful too, the only difference really was that she was dark-skinned. Martin would clown her, call her an animal, call her this, call her that. And I really couldn't see any difference in the way Gina and Pam acted or carried themselves or behaved other than their skin tone. And it's like subtle stuff like that that like has perpetuated this myth that dark-skinned women are like kind of like rough and lighter skinned to white skinned women aren't. But now, at least I could say, our media is getting better at it, and they're getting better at like portraying all types of women and all different facets being just who they are.
I think definitely, because who they put onto the screens is like, it's a representation of like who, I guess, the country is supposed to find beautiful, and usually what they see, at least now we're finally starting to see, you know, dark-skinned women, you know, finally coming into the play. But like before, it was always like light-skinned women getting the roles, or they're perpetuating like a light-skinned woman with a dark-skinned man, or those kind of like, you know, ideals. You know, these things, like whatever you show is what are people gonna digest, you know what I mean? And so like that's what people are gonna think, that that's beautiful. And so you need representation and to show what everyone looks like in order for people to have a healthy image of themselves.
I think it definitely does, just because beauty standards are at the given moment right now, which they change all the time, but right now it is lighter skin. So on my TL personally, I see, you know, black men with black moms saying how they just would never date a dark-skinned woman. This is Twitter, Instagram, as far as social media goes, and I do have a lot of retweeted lighter-skinned people on my TL than dark-skinned people. And then as far as just media, you see different celebrities looking lighter sometimes just to appeal to a more Eurocentric standard. So I definitely see it throughout Hollywood.
I mean, here recently it's gotten a lot better in terms of representing women of all colors in all different ways. But I can definitely say that, you know, if I were a dark-skinned woman, you know, seeking representation for people that look like me on TV, the roles are very limited in terms of what the way that they display darker-skinned women. And then light-skinned women too, actually. There's just like, the thing I just instantly thought of is in You Got Served. I don't know if y'all have seen that, but they just made the light-skinned girl just so airheaded, like, and they do that on a lot of TV shows, and I'm just like, why? Like, we're not dumb. But yeah, things like that where they just, continue to reinforce the stereotypes that people already might abide by. So
Hollywood portrays lighter skin as the beautiful skin. Lighter skin is the correct skin. Even the Dove commercial where the lady's like taking off her shirt and then turning from black to white, like, y'all didn't catch that?
Yes, to the extent that I've always understood that being light-skinned as a black person has made me more palatable to white people. So in a lot of like professional settings or times where I have to interact with someone who is white, I do understand that because I'm light-skinned as opposed to dark-skinned, if they have racist sentiments, it doesn't affect me as much because of colorism.
Yes, and it has in the degree that I wanted to start embracing my skin color, embracing my blackness, be it the darker hue or lighter hue. And in that, I stopped processing my hair. I stopped perming my hair and putting different chemicals on my hair to make it look more socially acceptable that we see on television with the weaves or the straight, silky, flat iron hair. I started wearing it like this because this is how my hair grows out of my scalp. So it has affected me in a way where I wanted to stop, I guess, letting it affect my subconscious mind, if that makes sense.
Yeah, when I was younger, especially because my mom's light skinned. Well, she's like, yeah, she's light. She's like kind of caramel now. I used to judge beauty looking at her. And so then kids would tell me I was ugly, but they would love my mom. They'd be like, your mom's so pretty, your mom's so pretty. So I'd be like, well, I guess I'm not pretty, even though we look alike because I'm dark skinned and she's not.
If you're walking around in your day-to-day life and you're subconsciously or consciously insecure about your physical appearance, I would say to you, let it go. It's probably never going to change, and this is exactly who you are. And the only way to lift that weight of insecurity off your shoulders is to begin to love and accept yourself, flaws, and all.
If you could base your self-worth on who you are as a person, how you treat people, it'll be easier to love your outside because you can come to terms with how you look and such like that. But if it's something you could change, also not work to change it like bleach yourself, but if you feel a certain type of way about your body, work out, you know what I mean? Is that weird? That was that. I think I said that wrong. You know what I mean? But love yourself and then let your self-worth and your self-love radiate to other aspects of your life.
With that, I want to say, literally, it starts with social media. I realize it's the people that are around you, and it's hard to control real life people, but your social media, follow all melanin colored girls. My Instagram is black crazy. If I'm feeling any type of way, I go on my timeline and I just scroll a little bit. And it's weird because by the end of 30 minutes, I feel a little more confident. It's really strange, but it's there. And so that helps a lot.
I would tell them to love themselves, no matter what skin tone you are. Do not pay attention to beauty standards, whether that be in the media, whether that be your peers, because at the end of the day, they're always changing, and what's pretty today might not be pretty tomorrow. You just have to find it in yourself to love yourself, and I think that's the most beautiful thing.
It's we just have to realize this is what you're born with and you're beautiful, and sure, society is trying to tell you one thing, but the way that you're born with or what you're born with is beautiful, you know what I mean? And I'm glad that we're finally starting to see that and we're pushing for that. And so really just I would just be just work on yourself and I guess don't buy into what they say.
I would say that beauty standards are certainly not absolute and not consistent. So whatever beauty standards, they're abiding by that makes them feel, insecure or self-conscious, just know that, they vary by geographic location, they vary by time period. So, whatever is most beautiful now or whatever the beauty standard is that's in style right now, that's not, absolute. So seeking acceptance within yourself and understanding that, regardless of, you're not gonna ever satisfy everyone's beauty standards. So seek acceptance within yourself.
Favorite thing about being a black woman? We're beautiful. We're powerful. We're strong. We can literally intimidate someone with our confidence. We can walk around and we have this perseverance. People know what we've been through. We have this support for our black men. We have this inevitable kind of just drive to succeed. I just love us. I love our diversity. I love that we have different skin tones. I love that, you know, there's 50 different shades in Fenty Beauty because we're all beautiful.
I would have to say my hair. The versatility of my hair, it gets me. It gets me so many compliments, so many different places and like reactions from people. I could come in with braids, next day some dreads, and people are like, what? Like, what happened? Like, the black community knows. But if you're not in that community, then it's like some sorcery. Like, that's where black girl magic comes from, I feel like. It's a part of it.
That unity with other black women, I just feel like there's, you know, I can't speak to other racial or other ethnic groups, you know, but I just feel like there's definitely something special about black women in the unity that they are able to achieve, you know, when they do try to foster that.
I love our versatility. I think black women are some of the most underappreciated people in the world, but we have so much like light and talent and love and happiness. Like, there's so much stuff that can hold us down every single day, and there's so much that we could be jaded and angry about, and that the majority of black women I see are so happy and carefree and unapologetically them that I love it.
I love it. Like, that's all I can say. I just love every single aspect of it.
You know, black girls are what's popping, you know, that's great. Like, I'm like, okay, yeah, I am popping. You know, this melanin, you see this highlight, but I'm not wearing highlight. Like, it's great. So, like, I don't know. I just think that it's what I'm born with, and so I'm satisfied with who I am. And, yeah, I wouldn't change it for anything.
Being a black woman. I love the fact that my hair defies gravity, and not a lot of other cultures can do that because of my hair, I can wear it how they wear it, but I could also wear it like this. I could pick it out, I could do whatever. I love the fact that, you know, I got a little, I got rhythm, you know? I love the fact that, you know, despite all of the challenges and hurdles that black women have gone through historically, we still remain 10 toes down, holding up our families, holding up our communities, getting an education, defying stereotypes. I love every single thing about being a black woman. I wouldn't trade it or change it a million times if I had the opportunity.